Hi everyone, this is Nicole Utek on Extending Children's Mathematics, chapters 4 through 6. Chapter 4 introduces us to relational thinking and how students use relational thinking in mathematics. Relational thinking is basically when students can understand and think about numbers in such a way that these numbers and quantities are meaningful relative to other numbers and quantities. This understanding of numbers, students can reason through relational thinking that 3/4 has a half and a quarter in it. Relational thinking is so important because they are used by students to solve problems, more specifically fraction computation problems. Relational thinking also plays a large role in developing students' understanding of fractions, and it increases their understanding of the fundamental properties of operations inequality. Furthermore, this understanding of fractional relationships that acquires through relational thinking helps to start the development of algebraic thinking in students. His ability to use equations to represent their strategies. Through this, students are also able to learn to reason about equations as objects with mathematical properties, which they need to do when they start solving algebraic equations. Teachers play a large role in helping develop relational thinking skills and strategies and helping students understand this. So teachers really need to focus on mathematical relationships when teaching and also figure out how students' strategies make use of relational thinking to help them improve. Teachers also need to instruct students to recognize and represent mathematical relationships as well as use them in their reasonings. Chapter 4 also recommends that teachers introduce multiple groups problems to students because multiple groups problems reinforce concepts of fractions as relational, and it also induces operations involving fractions. Chapter 5 goes on to talk about making relational thinking explicit. Talks about how relational thinking, teaching it, is a new role for teachers. Teachers need to not only demonstrate relational thinking, but also set the stage for students to use and develop. Less time demonstrating or explaining computation and problem-solving procedures, and more time helping students develop relational thinking strategies that adheres to them. Teachers also have a role to foster thinking strategies through having students communicate with others by facilitating class discussions so that everyone can see the different strategies used and have ideas flowing throughout the class. And also to do so, teachers should direct questions to specific students to help draw connections between their strategies and more basic strategy or PIN strategies used by students. Chapter 6 talks about understanding fraction equivalence and order. Students need to understand relationships between fractions because it builds on their understanding of fraction equivalence and order, which they will see as they advance to more difficult mathematics. A good way to do so is to use student solutions in equal sharing problems as a platform to introduce equivalent fractions. Chapter 6 also recommends that teachers use open number sentences to extend this understanding of equivalent relationships. Open number sentences are equations that have missing or unknown numbers and ask students to find those missing or unknown numbers. It is important for students to learn to reason in mathematics about equivalent fractions and the basis of relationships between fractions. A good way to do this, again, discussion and having students explain their strategies and why it worked. Students also need to understand that the set of all fractions. We have a great example of a classroom that uses relational thinking strategies. This article also presents a teacher that is good at developing and playing a large role in helping students understand their relational thinking strategies. I noticed this teacher always prompting this type of thinking from students and giving them problems where they can use their relational thinking skills. I also noticed the teacher asking them questions like what if or what do you think about they have figured out. Another article that we talked about was a longitudinal study of invention and understanding. Decided just instructing them on specific algorithms. And finally, the multiplication fact fluency using doubles article talks about reasoning strategies, and it even relates to this book by explaining that reasoning strategies are beneficial because they are suggested and show that students build their confidence in math. Students be able to apply their strategies or knowledge to other or more difficult situations. I also really liked how the chapters talked about having students communicate with each other. I find that discussion is essential in classroom and say that, again, discussion is a great way to do this. As the book mentioned, asking the right questions to get the right answer and get students thinking relationally. And finally, giving students situations or opportunities to